What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of National Pastime. John Toaster and free agent J Rob here. He's looking for a team. He can't stand the Broncos or Russell Wilson anymore. So if you've got any
Can't do it.
suggestions, throw them out. I think we're going to rule out the Chiefs, probably the Chargers,
Yeah.
definitely the Raiders. So
Can't stay
avoid
in
the AFC
division. Yeah.
West. Yeah, avoid the AFC West.
Just
Um,
take Seahawks, go sloppy first on Russell Wilson there.
There you go.
yeah, you're
I mean,
just
the way they're
negging
playing.
Russ. That's what
Yeah.
you should do. Just
There you go.
buy a Geno Smith jersey. Really steer into it. That would actually be pretty epic. I'm gonna see if
Honestly,
I can find one here.
at this point, I might get a custom one with Pete Carroll's name on the back for how much he finessed the Broncos in this trade. Good
Yeah,
God.
rough. Before we get into we're gonna keep the same format of sort of week 7 recap and week 8 preview, but we are going to change up a little bit how we do the recap. Instead of going game by game like we have been, each of us is going to throw out a topic that stood out to us. And, it'll lead into some of the game analysis, obviously, but, we're going to try to be a little bit more efficient with our time, at least on the front end here with the recaps, especially if we're, a few days late and Thursday Night Football starts tomorrow or probably today when you're listening to this. So getting into it, my first topic, because we hadn't had a chance to discuss it, it went down during Thursday night game last week, but Christian McCaffrey gets traded from the Panthers to the San Francisco 49ers. He goes for a second, a third, a fourth next year, and a fifth in 2024. Now, keep in mind, this comes after the 49ers a year ago traded 3 firsts and a third for Trey Lance to move up from 12 to 3. They now somehow have 5 draft picks in next year's draft, but none of which are before the third round. So Shanny, just the merry-go-round of running backs for him continues. He has a good one. I don't think there's any question that Christian McCaffrey is a very good player. So I'll start with you, Toaster. Are you buying or selling this move for the 49ers? What do you make of it for them?
I'm selling it in that they didn't need this to get over the hump. They've had tremendous success with all of their running, like whatever plug and play running back you wanted. That's never been their issue. Wilson Jr.'s done just fine. He did just fine when he was the third string running back last year. They were so stacked at running back that they already gave up on Trey Sermon. So it's not like
Who they moved up
really
to get a year
exactly.
ago.
So it's just like these are interchangeable pieces. It's kind of like defensive backs in Bill Belichick's system to me. You don't need this. It's a splash move. Maybe it gets some more people putting some Levi's in the Levi's Stadium seats, but I don't
They don't wear Levi's in
understand
the Bay Area.
giving up the draft capital that they did because this isn't the one that puts you over the edge, right? A quarterback, absolutely. A running back where the ball's not even in his hands every single play. You already had Debo Samuel running something similar, and you were able to be successful. This is a moot trade to me. I think CMC will continue to put up stats as long as he's healthy, and that's the most ironic part to me is he goes to the team that can't keep running backs healthy.
Maybe this is like just that weird karmic
Double
thing
negative
where,
type of
yep,
thing. Yeah.
it ends up working out. So they currently have the 4th highest Super Bowl odds, which is kind of surprising considering their record and how they've played, especially this week. They got fucking boat raced by the Chiefs. But do you think, J-Rob, that with the weak NFC or how weak it is right now, that I know Toaster doesn't think this puts them over the top necessarily, but I mean, is that what this move was? Is this an all-in move for them?
So I do think it's like to help put pieces around Jimmy, but I'm interpreting them going after Christian McCaffrey as them believing in Jimmy. I think this is them going all in on Jimmy because they feel like they need to surround everything else around him in order to be successful. And they see with Trey Lance, like can't stay healthy, or like I don't see them having faith in Trey Lance, and especially the locker room loving Jimmy. I feel like this is them saying we're giving you everything around you to make your life as easy as possible. And so, do I think it's going to take them to a Super Bowl? No, but I do think it's going to set Jimmy up to be as successful as he possibly could be, which could
So
get you to an NFC Championship game.
does that help then? Because Jimmy's only there for one more year. That's why if you say it's going all in, but it's not going to get you the Super Bowl, then it's a waste of those draft picks, in my opinion.
But do you think this is like maybe them saying, hey, we know we mishandled your offseason last year. We want you to come back next year. And we like brought these guys in to show like,
There's
hey,
no
we
way
made
in
a
hell
mistake.
they're giving up on Jordan or on Jordan Love. They should give up on Jordan Love on on Trey Lance after everything that they gave
Well, that
up
was a
for him.
Freudian slip, huh?
They just can't. There are very few people that could get away with that, and we'll see what it does for like Frank Reach and Chris Ballard in Indianapolis because you can't mess up at that position. They didn't give up the same assets that the San Francisco 49ers did for Trey Lance.
True. And this one to me is just so shocking because we've seen now, okay, there's no question that Kyle Shanahan's offensive genius is very, very well regarded throughout the league. Just look at how many coaches from his tree are now head coaches or are play callers. Like damn near half the league runs a version of the Shanahan offense. So we're talking about this guy that's like the pinnacle of offensive football in 2022. And he just like, there's that same group that like holds him up on this pedestal, like myself included, is like running backs are the dumbest thing to invest in, like in today's NFL. And he continues to drop, maybe not first or second round picks, but he's throwing third round picks at running backs like it's nobody's business. We mentioned Trey Sermon, the other guy that they drafted in the third round this year, Tyrion Price. Somebody help me.
Price. Tyrion
Yeah,
Davis Price, I think. Yeah.
Tyrion Davis Price. You wasted another third round pick on him. They've given up draft capital previously for running backs since him and John Lynch have taken over here. And now you just like empty the tank. I mean, I think I saw that by one of the more modern draft pick like valuation systems, they gave up the equivalent of what's like the fourth pick in the draft this year. I mean, that's just insane. Now, there's no question Christian McCaffrey's a great player, and he is more than just a running back.
Yeah,
But
he wasn't even worth a fourth round pick or fourth overall pick when he was drafted on a rookie contract, whatever,
right,
6 years ago, 5 years ago.
right. Like it's mind blowing to me that he continues to mishandle that position when, like you said, Toaster, he's gotten such good production out of Jeff Wilson, out of Elijah Mitchell, who's the 6th round pick last year. Like pretty much anyone he puts into that offense that has any level of speed or vision is going to be successful. I just don't think like it was worth it for them. It seemed like a desperation move to me. I don't know how this really, I haven't had a chance to fully digest it, I don't think, but I feel like this has some Trey Lance implications. I just don't know where quite yet.
I think that this was honestly just a ploy to try to pump up Prime Video ratings because it happened at like halftime, and unfortunately they didn't talk about it till the end of the game. But I think that's the only thing that I can really see here is that this has been in the works for a while, and they're just like, can we just release this on something that'll get the numbers up because that's been consistently dropping over time. The one thing that I will say is his contract for a stud running back is now affordable because the Panthers took on so much dead money out of this. They had restructured his contract at the beginning of the year to push everything into a signing bonus and reduce his base salary. So he's only costing them $12 million for the next 3 seasons after this, and he's under contract for that long. But that puts him in his age 30 season. I will say him in the backfield with Trey Lance in the backfield would be something that could be very dynamic. So I'm not going to throw them under the bus for saying that this was a completely unreasonable trade. I just think it was an unnecessary trade, and it's not going to get them over the hump this year, which is what I think that they needed because Trey Lance didn't look ready for me 2-3 years out.
Yeah, but no, go for it, Jerome.
You don't think having a Debo and a McCaffrey who are basically like very similar comped players. Where like, McCaffrey's a better runner than Debo, and Debo's a better catcher than McCaffrey, but they both do both very well.
Those
Having
actually
both,
might be reversed, quite frankly. But
Yeah, honestly.
but like, but you know what I
Continue.
mean. Like they're both very dangerous at what they do.
yeah.
You don't. That doesn't pose a threat. Like
No,
instead
it
of
does.
having
I
a
mean,
dual threat at quarterback
look
and
at
running
Tua
back, you have a
right now, right? If you put the right weapons around him, he can be successful. So I do think that it'll help his development. But what it does do is set your franchise back by not only losing these draft picks, but then you ultimately have to pay Trey Lance for the performance that you get out of him because you're paying other superstars or you have other superstars around him. And that's the dangerous part to me for this is, you build them up to the point where you can't let them go. That is something that tangentially will be very interesting with the Lamar Jackson outcome after this season. Like he's built himself up as a superstar, and is it worth paying the superstar? And I think that he's the one that we figured that out with at the quarterback position at that next level of future stars.
Yeah, I think this ultimately is a last ditch effort for them to, like you said, surround Trey Lance next year with as much as possible. And they better hope to God that that guy actually pans out because he's played almost no football in 3 years. And injuries, I think, will always be a thing for him. I just based on the way he has to be used to ultimately be effective. And they just better fucking hope that that worked out. I don't.
He's
I don't know.
basically
crazy. I
played
think they're
Pop
already
Warner
moving on.
football his entire life. So
What'd you say?
he's basically played Pop Warner football his entire life, based on the level of competition that he's gone against. So
Yeah, more or less.
yeah, it go all in. I mean, John Lynch has a 6-year contract, and obviously we will see how Shanahan's able to continue to use these weapons. I think he'll be successful, but it just doesn't put them quite at the upper echelon of anything except, I guess, the NFC, right? And that's all that ultimately matters.
Just get there, right?
Yeah.
Like anything can happen. Honestly. All right.
Call me crazy. I think they're done with Trey Lance. I don't think they're ever going to say it, but call me crazy. I think they're
I don't
already
disagree
over it.
with you.
I
I
think they're
I
already
really
over it.
don't. I really don't.
Mac
We'll
Jones
see,
swap for Trey Lance.
dude. I mean that.
Might as well.
Why not, right? I mean, get the guy that you probably actually wanted when you moved up and then got talked out of.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man. All right. I don't think we need to linger on that too much. That I kind of called out that game a little bit. The Chiefs just destroyed the 49ers.
After being down 10-0, typical
Yeah.
Chiefs style.
Yep. I saw that since Patrick Mahomes has taken over as starter in games that the Chiefs spot the opponent 10 points or fall behind 10 points at any time, they have a 10-8 record. They are the only team that is above 500. The next closest team is like 3-11. So they're just
I mean,
inevitable.
I obviously took them as my bonus pick, thinking that they'd win by more than 3, but this is another thing for teams with this dynamic of an offense. Playing the live bet is not a bad situation because the numbers you're getting at down 10 points versus the numbers you're getting at the start of the game. If you know that they're a slow starter, someone,
Yeah.
potentially the Cardinals that can't put up points in the first quarter, or the Eagles that don't put up points in the first quarter, interesting strategy there for these types of teams that have that explosive level of offense.
Yeah, but Vegas, I will say, probably is on top of that as well. But I don't disagree that that's a
Yeah.
good strategy.
I remember at its like when they were down 10, the best odds for moneyline Chiefs was plus 190,
I mean, damn.
which is still solid.
Plus
But
odds.
like, yeah, oh yeah.
For the Chiefs.
But you would think it would be more than that, and they're like, no, we'll keep it. We'll keep it under 200.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus
All right.
going into the game where it would have been minus 200, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, what's your premonition, eye-opening experience here, J. Rob? After your long flight to London, what'd you wake up seeing?
So I've got two. One I think is going to be a little shorter. If I'm the Giants, you have to sign Daniel Jones to a 2-year deal. Like, I know it sounds dumb,
Mid-season.
but like no, just in the offseason, like they're 6-1, and I know every game they've won has been within one possession. But I feel like that is a perfect example of how mismanaging either a quarter, and not that he was mismanaged, like not that he was uber talented and got mismanaged, but like the mismanagement of quarterback or a coaching system just being shoved down a player's throat versus trying to just do plays that help players succeed and help teams succeed based on personnel. We're seeing it with the Giants. We're seeing Dayball make these pivots and doing things that accentuate his players and not forcing them, pigeonholing them into something that, like, Daniel Jones has been good. Like, he hasn't cost them games. And if you're the Giants, like, do you really want to go into next year with no quarterback when you've kind of built some momentum, built some identity, and have been winning football games for the first time in like God knows how long?
I don't know. I think that's a good call out. I don't know if I would necessarily buy in fully quite yet. Toaster, you would probably be a good person to answer, but a 2-year deal scares me a little bit with Daniel Jones.
I
But they
I
would
don't
have the
think
ability to franchise tag him, wouldn't
I
they?
was gonna say I don't think he would sign a 2-year deal, and I don't think that they'd necessarily be after a 2-year deal. What I would say is you give him the uh, unrestricted unrestricted franchise tag, which is only in the 25-28 million dollar ballpark. He's allowed to negotiate with other teams. You get compensation
You
if
get
somebody
comps.
does want to sign him,
Yeah,
and you play it one more year because while their record says that they're good.
Yeah, the
They're
wins are
what five?
close.
The wins are there 5-1. It's a lot of very close games, and you're not relying on Daniel Jones to win you those games. And Saquon's performance will eventually drop off. I don't mean that this season. I just mean as a running back, that'll eventually go. And then what do you have there to support it? I will say it's tremendous what he's doing with the surrounding cast that he has. I mean, he's got Kenny Galladay, he's got Kadarius Toney, he's got a very deep bench since that's where those two are sitting right now. But you got the Wandale Robinson. Can't even remember the name of their tight end right now, Bellinger. So what he is doing is impressive, but I don't think that he's done enough to deserve that. He's not going to take anything for less than 2 years, 70 million, I would say. So you might as well just end up in the franchise tag area. Don't go through those negotiations, hurt some feelings like you inevitably do, a la Lamar Jackson, as we alluded to earlier, and play it by ear one more time. And if he balls out again, you still have the franchise tag option after that, but you know whether or not you want him for more than that 2-year stint.
yeah. I mean, I think he's playing well, like no doubt, but he's very, very propped up by the scheme. And we've talked about it previously a little bit, but what they're doing with him to win games is admirable, and you love to see it from a coaching staff, just getting the most out of their guys and playing to their skill sets. But it's got a really low ceiling, and Daniel Jones is not one like
He
I,
looks
I
way more confident though. Like
no,
he
he
looks
does.
comfortable.
I think he's
He,
breathing out of his nose now.
yeah, good for him, right? I mean, he's definitely looks way more comfortable, but so much of that is schemed open for him. He's still not winning on traditional dropbacks. And like a stat that I heard recently was about the top 3 players in the NFL this year are quarterbacks in scramble rate, and they're the 3 guys with the longest time to throw. It's Justin Fields, Marcus Mariota, and Daniel Jones. The difference is Justin Fields and Marcus Mariota are have the 1 and 2 highest average depth of target in the NFL as well. So they're holding onto the ball to make impact plays. Daniel Jones, his average depth of target on when he's pressured is super super low. Like he's just not delivering impact plays, and I think at some point we'll see a regression with him in regard to his ability to hang on to the football, maybe some of the luck with the fumbles. And when that happens, their margin for error is so slim. I will say that going into next year, they are sitting on the second most effective cap space. So there is room to augment the roster, but and where they are likely at this point likely going to be picking in the first round, I don't think it makes sense for them to necessarily go after a quarterback. I mean, I've been on the record saying I think there's only one quarterback worth going after in the first round in this draft. So you roll with him one more year, you continue to build the roster up, and then you shed that salary and hopefully put yourself in a position to either draft somebody next year or go after a veteran that becomes available. But going 2 years on him, it's not. I don't think that's the route to go unless he accepts a deal that is like total dog shit for him, which I don't think he'll do.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right,
I don't know.
give it another shot. Give it another shot. What
All
else
right,
you
here's
got?
number.
What's your
I
next
still
takeaway?
think. I mean, I still believe that they should at least give Daniel Jones one more year because it's like this is
Totally.
the first year he's actually had a legit look, in my opinion, based
Totally.
on the shitty offensive coordinators he's had before.
One more
But
year,
this
absolutely.
is, and I'm not comparing him to Kirk Cousins because I think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback, but it's the Kirk Cousins conundrum. Do you take something that can be consistently competitive but doesn't get you over the edge? Maybe throw Jimmy G into that conversation as well, or do you say we we're not here to just, skip by in the playoffs, barely eke out some wins. We're going to get butts in the seats anyways. We make money regardless. It's the NFL. It prints money. We want to have that Eli Manning mouth breathing dummy glory. That we come in as a wild card team maybe like they did, but there's just not enough talent on that team right now to take them over the edge. And do you want Daniel Jones to be the one that helms it as you start to rebuild? Again, super impressed with where they are at because they basically just salary dumped this offseason. This was not supposed to be a competitive year. Won't use the T word because they were always, I don't think that they were intentionally ever going to be losing, but they definitely were trying to shed salary and say, let's set ourselves up for 2 years from now. That's why they didn't take on Daniel Jones's fifth-year option because there was no need to because they didn't know what their team was going to look like this year. And that's all the props in the world to Dayball. He has to be the leading candidate for Coach of the Year right now.
For sure. Agreed. All right, Josh, what's your second takeaway from this week?
There are quite a few teams that thought they were like, so whenever you see a trade and you're always like, oh, they got a first round pick, but the first round pick they got was from a team that's going to be good. Where is this audio coming from? Sorry. Something just started playing in my background and I have so much shit in my ear right now.
We can't hear
Oh
it.
my
We
God.
can't hear you, but
Since you're stealing what I was potentially going to go for, I'll lead in while you figure out your voice.
I got it. We're good. Yeah, I got it figured out.
You're talking about the Seahawks having the Broncos top 5 pick.
Yep. And then
Eagles having the Saints top 6 pick, and
Yep.
then Texans having the Browns top 4 pick.
Yep. And those are all picks where it's like, dude, they got first round picks, but what are they going to use with them? And now it's like, oh shit. Not only are two of those teams are doing very well in their division. Yeah, they're going to end up with probably top 10 picks.
Seattle might get their future quarterback out of this whole deal, which would be fucking wild. Well, to be
Are you
fair,
talking
I
about
did think
Geno?
they would. Yeah, exactly. To be fair, I did think that was going to be the case with their own pick. But man, you're right. It is wild. Like if this doesn't give teams pause about dishing out first round picks. I mean, if you're going to do it for a quarterback, right? I think the Broncos still 10 out of 10 times would make the deal that they made because they needed a quarterback. Obviously, hindsight, it's 2020, but like if you are sending a first round pick for anything other than a quarterback that could potentially take you to the Super Bowl or the conference championship game at worst, then it's a mistake. You're just that there's too much parity in the NFL. Injuries happen, shit happens, and now the Seahawks. I mean, god damn, the Broncos. What they gave up now looks so much worse. To your point,
Yeah, not great.
Toaster.
So you're saying you're not on the Olave trade?
I'm not on the what?
Moving up
You're
in
you're
the
asking
first
me. I'm
round.
guessing
Yeah.
because I love Chris Olave. Not for what it's worth for them right now. I mean, look, Olave is a very good player. What is it doing for them? You know,
I'm completely with you. That's why I threw it out there. I agree. You take the chances with the quarterback. I don't think you necessarily take the chances with like the Deshaun Watson level quarterback, but the Russ trade, I think that you do that over again. Other than, oh, wow, what are Pete Carroll, Mike Tomlin, these just fantastic heads that we don't give credit to hiding because you never heard a peep like this out of. I mean, Russ had some personality quirks back then, but now he's just thinking that he is the
He's
shit.
insufferable.
And it is, I think he's making. I'm insufferable even as not a Broncos fan, even as somebody that's rooting against Russ actively right now. I'm still insufferable for what he's putting out there. It is just demeaning. Can you just highlight real quick? Do you have the quote in front of you for his trip on the plane from London?
Uh, I can
So,
paraphrase it, or
so
do you
I can
have it?
paraphrase it too. The first hour or two, I watched film, and then basically everyone else on the team went to sleep because I'm just going to throw them under the bus, Aaron Rodgers style.
Like
So
normal
I
human
got up
beings.
and basically fucking ran wind sprints in the aisle of our 777 while everyone else was sleeping. I stretched, then I took a quick 1 hour nap, and then I started watching film again. So yeah, I'm ready. I'm getting ready to go.
well, he also,
For four
claimed
hours.
that he doesn't get jet lag.
Yeah,
What a fucking dink. I also got to say, and this is humble brag, but as somebody that has traveled on team charters, if this asshole or
was
any
doing
asshole
that.
was doing something like that in the middle of the aisle, everyone would be like, sit your ass down. Like, I just I don't get it with him. To your point that Pete Carroll has covered this up for so long, I think there were rumblings, but there was also the element of he's winning, he's playing well. We're just going to keep riding with it as long as we can. Um, the Broncos are unfortunately in a position where they gave up so much to get him and then gave him that contract that you're just married to who he is. And you have to let him let his dork flag fly because it's just, oh my God.
And he's on a
What a
power
fucking
trip.
disaster.
Like whether he wants to
Yeah.
admit it or not, he's on a power trip. Like
He is.
it's
But like,
ridiculous.
that's do that when you're
You're
Aaron
winning.
Rodgers and you say relax or whatever the hell you want to say, but then you go out there and you're playing
You
at the
back it
highest
up.
level that anybody's
Yeah.
ever played at.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Fucking Russell Wilson right now and the Broncos offense is so like barf worthy. Like what are you doing? Do you I don't know, man.
I just want
The
to know
ego.
if
It's all ego.
I just want
Because
to know if
I
it
would
ever
want to
pays
hide in a
off.
fucking cave if I was playing like him, and I, forced to trade, and they gave me this contract. I would be fucking mortified. And he's out there every chance he gets with the microphone in his face, saying something stupider than the last thing he said.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that players even have to call his manager just to get a hold of him, like, what are we doing?
What a
Like,
douche!
what are we doing, dude? These guys go to war with you, and you're like calling manager. It's like
I mean,
that's a
that's
quick
our
way to.
relationship. I just happen to be my own manager. Save the 10% cut.
Thought you were gonna
Yeah.
say your wife was the manager. Be like, yeah, we got to run through the manager.
All right,
Uh, all right. Well,
toaster.
it's not necessarily a takeaway from this last week, but it is setting us up for the next week. And that is that the trade deadline is going to happen between now and the next time we talk to you guys. And there's going to be some real opportunities here to determine whether teams are in it or out of it. Number one being the Cleveland Browns with Kareem Hunt, because if they offload Hunt, they're basically saying this is a lost season for us after a potentially a loss Monday night. We'll get into our primetime picks later. Um, but we already saw the CMC move. We've already seen a Robbie Anderson move. We might still see a DJ Moore move. There's an Elijah Moore. So one of the Moores will probably be moving.
Robert Quinn
And
got traded today.
yeah, so and that's after a marquee victory for the Bears that finally said,
Yeah.
hey, maybe we're still in it. And I think they recognize that, hey, they're still a little bit further away from the Vikings and Green Bay Packers than
Yeah.
they want to believe. But that means it's a big week all around for what's the motivation for these teams going in. And that takes me back to you can't measure intangibles in the NFL, and damn, have Rodgers and Brady lost their intangibles. They don't look like they want to be there anymore. They are probably going to be fine because they're in the NFC. They're both in weak divisions, or at least divisions that the Vikings will probably win it at this point. But there's enough wild card fodder that Green Bay can probably catch up.
Yeah.
Uh, but you get the ballers out there like Heineke, you get the PJ Walkers wanting to prove stuff, Bailey Zappi for the last 2 weeks outside of this terrible Bears loss. It's one of these things where that grit gets you places, and teams seem to be getting complacent right now. And I don't know if it's the lack of preseason work, it's the fact that they're starting with the social media trend, you're able to spread blame around more so than you used to be, right? Because Aaron Rodgers, if you think about 10 years ago, if they're playing shit like this, it's all on Rodgers. It's not him getting the microphone, the opportunity to prop up and say, oh, well, I've got shit receivers. Oh, my team doesn't know what they're doing. We're
Yeah.
making the wrong runs and calls 20% of the time. No one gives a shit at that point. But now that everybody's their own celebrity, has their own talking points, the access to all of these players, it's almost like it rips these teams apart a little bit and, throw Russ right into the center of
Rodgers
that
has a
equation.
weekly fucking segment on Pat McAfee. They call it
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers Tuesday.
Yep.
Like it's ridiculous. He, by the way, his whole thing about there's 20, percent of the time people are making mistakes and those people need to be held accountable. Talk about like the definition or the embodiment of the like hot dog suit meme
Mhm.
where he's like, we're all trying to find the man responsible for this. It's like, dude, look in the fucking mirror. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Brady's a situation where I feel like he has still played well, not to Tom Brady level, but given the issues on their offensive line, the injuries that they've dealt with at the skill positions, I think he has still played well despite the fact that that offense has been bad and they haven't performed well as a team.
Here,
Rodgers, on the other hand, has been fucking awful.
but
I mean,
go ahead, sorry.
no, I was just going to say, I don't think it is hyperbole to say he's been one of the 5 or 6 worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL this year. And this is the guy who won the MVP last year.
Is that what your QB metrics say?
Um,
He's definitely lower than average. Where I was going to go with that
oh,
is,
definitely lower than average.
I live betted the Bucks to win this even when they were down 21-3 because I just still have that I believe in Brady. He'll get them over the hump. He'll just say put the team on my back and get there, and he's not able to do that anymore. And I just don't see the same. Him and Rodgers are nowhere near the same level because there's zero fire from Rodgers. Rodgers to me is
Zero.
checked out and just said this is my business decision. I'll collect my 50 million. I'll collect 50 million next year as long as Brady retires because I don't want to retire the same year as Brady. And just play this out because your hands are tied. You're not starting Jordan Love. You don't have any idea what you're going to do with him because I'm still around. You can't get rid of me, similar to the Broncos not being able to get rid of Russell Wilson. But once you lose that fire, it's just the talent level is so close in all of these things, and it's those intangibles that put you over the edge. And you get people like a Heineke who doesn't have the talent level, but he has some of those
He's
intangibles
gamer,
where
man.
he's willing to put his hand. When I told Stacy, my wife, that he was a gamer, she's like, "Oh, he likes Call of Duty too." I was like, "No, that's not what that means, babe." But
Hey, you know what? We got one NFL quarterback who's a gamer,
exactly.
right? Like, yeah.
Right.
But even then, I mean, just throw Murray in there, right? They're struggling this year, and he seems to be deflecting a lot more blame than he's taking on, and that's not what used to make you a franchise quarterback, right? Now it's about
Right.
your own brand versus you being the team's brand, and
Hmm.
it's gonna get interesting as more and more of these contracts come up, and they're getting bigger and bigger. If more people are gonna start falling on their face, like Rodgers at 50 million a year, like Russ at close to 50 million a year. Deshaun Watson's going to have close to 50 million a year. Like it's going to be interesting to see what happens once there's less team and more me.
Yep. So a little bit of insight into where Rogers currently ranks, and at some point, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this ranking. But based on this ranking that well, I've mostly come up with here, and I would love you guys to fact check me on some of this. But um, Rodgers is currently the 29th ranked quarterback by our metric. Um, Essentially, there's three components. There is completed air yards per attempt, so measuring like how efficient you are um, removing yak from the equation. There is completion percentage over expectation. So again, compared to the average quarterback, and the situation, like how your completion percentage compares to what it should be. And then the third component is win probability added per drop back. So the plays that you make, how they ultimately affect the potential outcome of the game, right? So you're gonna plays that you make in, fourth quarter, like tight game situations, third downs. Those are going to, which are winning plays. Those are what ultimately matter within that statistic. So Rodgers is being heavily pulled down by his win probability component of this metric. He is in the 31st percentile of NFL quarterbacks when it comes to his win probability added per dropback. He is 69% worse than the average NFL quarterback when it comes to his impact on win probability so far this year. So not only is he just not really doing a whole lot, but when it matters, he is doing awfully. And I mean, I think the eye test bears that out when you watch their games. I mean, he's checked out. He's like third and long. Fuck it, I'm going to throw a 2-yard pass to this guy who I know, he's not Devontae Adams. He's sure as shit not going to get a first down. Like, he is just mailing stuff in, to your point, and it's mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing to see. I don't know what their contract situation or like how that contract's structured exactly. Toaster, you might know, but are they?
I'm pretty
Is
sure
there an
it's
out?
it was there's really not. I'll grab it here real quick, but I'm pretty sure that they basically tied themselves to him for his dead cap number next year would be 99 million, probably a little bit heavy to take on. After that, 68 million dead cap for pre-June. If you get rid of them post June, it does go down to 22. Technically, I guess post June 1 next year, it's 31. But it's really, there's not an out next year unless you're willing to post June 1 cut him and eat $31 million, which is doable, but anything before June 1, so you're not trading him for anybody,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, is basically off limits. And I know we've had our back and forth on how much money you can eat, but I think at 68 million, we'd all agree that he's off limits at that point.
I think so too. What's the impact if he retires? Do you know?
If he retires, it gets a
You
little
know he
bit
won't.
trickier on that one just because technically your prorated bonus is able to be recouped by the team. So I would imagine that that one gets a little bit more of a negotiation. You can't put a real number on it.
Yeah.
Like Andrew Luck, they ate the dead money when he retired out of the blue. But that was really just, I mean, I think it was like 12 million at that point or something like that.
Yeah,
And
it
they were just
wasn't
like,
crazy.
maybe he'll come back if we don't go after him for that. I think if Rodgers were to retire next year and they have a dead cap hit of 100 million, that they would probably say, let's discuss this a little bit further.
Yeah. Damn, that's tough, man. That is real tough.
As you say with a big ass smile.
It's a real shame,
Yeah.
You hate to hear it. You hate to hear it. Oh man.
Well, before we get into the next games, just to bring everything together, the Carolina Panthers put up, what was it here, 163 rushing yards with their second and third string running back. Also had 4 catches between the two of them for 37 yards. So, uh, again, talent differential at the quarterback position, very different than the talent differential at other positions. Love
Totally.
CMC, great guy. Wish the best for him, but they basically went into against one of the better rushing defenses in the league, and maybe the scheme wasn't there. The Bucks didn't think they had a chance in hell to run, and just got hit in the mouth, but uh, to see that level of production as soon as you get rid of your best player at that exact position just shows you how little trade value there is in that and how much game planning can actually change things a la Brian Daboll.
Yeah, the Panthers going in and smacking the Bucks after they have full on started sell mode is that was wild. PJ will give credit though. PJ Walker played great. And he's going to get the start again this week. So I hope that continues because I like him. But
Got a first overall pick and a third overall pick, and they're taking the guy that was undefeated from the XFL
yeah,
as their
exactly.
starter moving forward.
All right. Um, any last thoughts before we move on to the Week 8 preview?
I got a quick one. I wouldn't be surprised if NFL teams start taking schemes from rugby teams on goal line situations and end of game situations. I feel like if you train a team to learn how to actually run, those lateral lines in we're at our own 30, it's the last play of the game, keep the ball alive type situation. And then you're already starting to see it, but teams will now move their tight end in behind a quarterback on a sneak and basically help push him in. And I think we'll start seeing a lot of more elements from rugby start transferring over to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a rule against that, and then
Used to be.
there used
They
to be.
sit,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Along the lines of that, though, how awesome was it to see Aaron Rodgers throw away the game by short arming it to his lineman, who probably could have got another 20 yards and close to the end zone if he
And he
just
laid there dead.
He just went between his legs. He just sat there. Poor guy. He shouldn't have been put in that position to begin with.
On to Cincinnati. Well, not quite yet. On to
Not quite yet.
Tampa Bay and
On to Tampa, yes. So Week 8 preview starts with the Thursday night game. The Ravens, who are 1-point favorites at Tampa Bay. I do want to call out that
Dogs. Ravens are Bucks are giving a point, or Bucks are -1. I'm looking at that MGM right now.
Different when I pulled it earlier. Maybe I just misread it, but thank you for that. So
No, I'm
Bucks
double checking my own.
are 1-point favorites. I was already very surprised at this line, I gotta say. I just want to say for the record, yeah, what don't we know? We are collectively 40, 43, and 1 this year. Toasters, the leader in the clubhouse, at 15 and 13. It was a bad week last week. I went 1 and 3. Both of you guys went 2 and 2. So if you are following our bets, just take that for what it
Don't
is.
follow me when I bet on the Patriots. That's why I don't bet on the Patriots.
I'm mostly saying that the wave is coming, so you better get on now, or
okay.
you're going to be left behind. Yeah.
There you go.
Let's ride, right?
Let's ride. Let's ride. So the Ravens are at the Bucks. Bucks are 1-point favorites. Thank you, J-Rob, for correcting me. I don't frankly understand this one at all. This is definitely one where it is so off of what I thought it would be that I'm like, Vegas is just fucking me right now. Like, what is going on? I guess I'll start with my pick. I'm going to take the Ravens. I was prepared to take them when I thought they were -1. I frankly didn't understand why they were anything less than a field goal favorite against the Bucks based on what we've seen from them. I mean, I know the Bucks are still the Bucks. They still have Tom Brady. They are a disaster. And not that the Ravens are necessarily like this world beater. They barely beat the Browns last week. They've obviously given up some big fourth quarter leads this year, but there's no question in my mind that they are the better team here, and they are getting a point on the road after we just saw Tampa lose to Carolina. I don't understand this, if I'm going to be honest with you. So somebody tell me how I'm wrong, but I'm on the Ravens +1.
See, because usually what is they get probably 4
We're losing you,
percent.
Toaster. We're losing you a little bit. I think you were saying recency bias, but you're frozen. So let's go to J Rob first.
Uh, I'm at first when I saw the line, I thought the same thing, being like the Bucks are getting a point. I thought that was weird, but I am on the Bucks -1 purely because of how bad the Ravens secondary is and how many blown leads they've had in the fourth quarter. The one quarterback that you probably don't want to play against when making a comeback is Tom Brady. He's the king of comebacks, and so if you're known for blowing fourth quarters and you're playing against the guy who's made some of the most historic comebacks in the fourth quarter, as bad as the Bucks have been, I'm going Bucks -1.
All right.
That makes me feel better because I was worried that we were all going to be on the same page for Thursday night, which doesn't set us up for success. Where I was going with that before I was so rudely interrupted by the interviews was recency bias usually plays in Vegas' favor. They're always trying to hit that 4%, 5% profit, and the spread is set based on where they think the money will go. And after a team gets walloped like the Bucks, usually that knocks their number down. So that kind of scares me that they would have been 4 or 5 point favorites if they hadn't just taken that licking. But they have their tail between their legs right now. They've beaten the Atlanta Falcons just barely on a questionable roughing the passer call at the end of the game
Mm-hmm.
to not have lost 5 straight. And one of those was against KC. We'll give them that. One of the losses was against the Green Bay Packers, but we've since seen that the Packers are not exactly the Packers of old. And that was a 14-12 game. They're just not putting up points. They put up 31 against the Chiefs, but since then, 3 against Carolina, 18 against Pittsburgh, 21 against Atlanta, and they did 12 against the Packers. So this is setting up to be exactly what J-Rob wants, which is the Baltimore Ravens get out to a huge early lead, have a double-digit lead going into the fourth quarter, and then Tom Brady makes the comeback. But I just don't see that offensive firepower being there this time. They don't make the comeback. The Ravens, I think, win this one pretty handily, even being on the road on a short week.
All right. So Toaster and I are on the Ravens +1. J Rob has, I mean, I feel like you've been burned by the Bucks before and you're just staying with it, huh? So
I mean, at this point, I'm used to just mediocre football with Denver. Like you're rattling off how many points like the Bucks have scored over last week. They're like, they're not scoring a lot. I'm like, dude, I would
you're like,
kill
wow.
for that.
I'd take the 3
I would
points.
kill to see a 2 in the tens column of my fucking team score. Holy shit.
All right. Moving on to the Sunday night game. This spread definitely reflects what we've seen as of late. The Packers at the Bills. The Bills are 11.5-point favorites. I mean, the Packers are bad, but it's still Aaron Rodgers. Toaster, you lead us off with this one. Where are you going?
Uh, I'm going to not bet against the spread whenever I don't have to on a number this big. Just because it's so big, because there is, I think Buffalo can wipe the floor with the Packers. I just can't commit to them doing that. And at 11.5, screw it. I'm going Buffalo. I'm going Buffalo. They are gonna just absolutely ass wipe these Packers. They who wants to play for Rodgers right now? He basically said that his team needed to get benched and put in some reserves. So screw it. I never want to f with a number that's this big, but the Bills offense is humming. They have Devin Singletary and James Cook, who are clearly better than Christian McCaffrey. Otherwise, they would have made that trade too. And they hand it to the Packers.
All right, J Rob.
So I'm leaning towards the Bills, but now I'm doing a quick scramble to see what the Packers' record has been in primetime this year to see if I could spin zone the Packers into covering because it's primetime and Aaron Rodgers is all about the brand. Hasn't played in primetime. Okay, so
Well, that's not true. They played the Bears on Sunday night and they won. They obliterated them.
I was looking at Thursday night's schedule slate. There you go. Okay, so Yep, that's when I'm going to spin zone. I got the Packers covering 11 and a half. Nothing like the bright lights for him to spew whatever opinions he wants to say, whether it's throwing his own team under the bus or saying he's immunized from any criticism that he deserves from this team. Uh, yeah, I'm taking the Packers covering. I mean, the Bills are still going to win. The game's not going to be like on paper, the game's not going to be close. On the eye test, the game's not going to be close. But I think the Bills led up with a third quarter lead, a fourth quarter lead, and maybe you get a backdoor cover. So yeah, I like the Packers.
I don't know. I think based on everything that we've said about Aaron Rodgers to this point, going back to how will teams handle the trade deadline, this seems like the perfect opportunity for him, knowing that they are going into this game with no chance to win. Nobody's given them a chance to win. He will make it a point on national television to show that he doesn't have anyone of value to throw the football to, and maybe force the Packers into some sort of wide receiver trade. Because, I mean, at this point, what else can possibly help them? Like this current group of receivers isn't doing anything. They're going to have to be desperate, I think. And Rodgers, this is the perfect opportunity for him to point that out. So I'm on the Bills. I mean, I don't like the number, obviously. Like, who likes giving up almost 12 points? But like this one could be like a 40-10 like ass beating in Buffalo. So
Oh
I'm
shit,
I'm
Buffalo's coming off a bye too.
Yeah, so they've had an extra week to prepare for this, and the thing is that the Packers defense just hasn't been as stout as you were expecting them to be this year. I mean, they've been
no,
giving up 20 plus points in 5 of their 6 games, and that's against, lesser competition.
totally.
New England, New York, Washington, all putting up 20 points on them. Not something that you would have expected at the beginning of this year. I appreciate the trade deadline talk because that does seem like a sandbagging son of a bitch type of thing that Aaron Rodgers would try to pull off. And I think he does need a new receiver. And if they haven't made the move by now, they're not going to make the move till after the week.
Yeah. All right. So to recap, myself and Toaster are on the Bills, and J Rob is taking the Packers just because YOLO. I don't know.
Pretty
Um,
much.
Believe in Rodgers, believe in Brady.
I'm just
yeah.
believing in prime time. These boys
Yes.
love prime time, so
Okay. Okay. Moving on to the Monday night game, the Bengals at the Browns. Bengals are 3.5 point favorites. They are coming off an offensive explosion. Joe Burr threw for 480 yards. I don't like what the fuck even is that? That doesn't even make sense. The Bengals made a pretty drastic change in their approach and scheme in this game or this previous game. They previously throughout the season had been very siloed, and I'm using that term because I've heard it a million times from all the smart people that talk about football other than us. Um, Very, very siloed in their formations and the plays that they run out of them. So they were very predictable. This last game, they just said, fuck it. We are going to go in shotgun the entire time and go back to what Joe Burrow does best, which is dissect the field, know where to go with the football. And they actually had a lot of success running the ball out of shotgun, too, I think because of that tendency break. Obviously, that can only go so far. Like, it's not like that's all of a sudden that was the skeleton key that unlocks them and they're a juggernaut now. But clearly, they are finding their footing. And I just don't think the Browns are, going to put up much of a fight in this one. Like, you credit Jacoby Brissett, and there's a lot of admirable performances on that Browns team, but they're not a very strong team. We know what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase can do when they get rolling and they're feeling confident, and I just don't see the Browns keeping up with them necessarily, assuming that the Bengals offense keeps on the track that they've been. So I'm thinking that the Bengals cover this pretty easily. I would have probably taken it as high as 5.5, maybe. So it's, I'm on this one 3.5 without a doubt.
Well, I'll jump in then because we're aligned for the second straight week on our primetime picks. I am with you that I think Cincinnati's found something. It is a divisional game that is a or it is a home underdog, which we know we have a fan base for taking straight up, not, if not against the spread. But I just the only games that Jacoby Brissett's been able to win this year are against the Carolina Panthers week 1 and the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 3. Everything
Whoa,
else
the
is
Carolina Panthers just beat Tom Brady, okay? And the Pittsburgh Steelers also beat Tom Brady. So,
and maybe there's a secret sauce there for them, but and maybe Brissett's should have kept him in New England as Brady's backup to play the Panthers and the Steelers, but they haven't been as competitive as their talent has shown. And the biggest thing to me is that talk about Kareem Hunt and knowing that if they lose, he's on the trade deadline or he's on the trade block. And if I was a player, which everyone can say they don't listen to the media, they don't check Twitter, it's bullshit. They know that they're saying, wait, so today, this Monday, is basically whether or not we're giving up on the season. Maybe that's the catalyst they need, and it puts them over the top. But to me, it would say, we don't believe in Brissett. We don't believe in what we have. We're playing for next year. Let's get the assets, and let's let Joe Burr bend this over.
all right. Toaster, I like that you're on the Joe Burr train. I always love when you're forced to take his side. J. Rob, who you got?
So I'm going to be a team player here since we seem to always lose the Monday night ones whenever we go unanimous. I'm going to take the Browns plus 3.5, and I'll give a good reason. NFL players have high egos, and I feel like similar to the Panthers situation, when guys know they're on the trading block, I feel like they tend to show out because either they're, feeling disrespected or they're like, this is my chance to get the fuck out of this shithole. So I'm going to ball out and, become appealing to other teams. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a big Kareem Hunt game. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, you can tell he's probably the only player that's upset that Deshaun Watson had an 11-game suspension. Because he's like, bro, why couldn't it be like 5? Like, I'm dying out here. Like, he looks like he's met his toll. But yeah, I'm going to say the Browns cover. Doesn't mean they win, but for the sake of the pod and holding it down for Monday night and avoiding the unanimous jinx, I'm taking the Browns plus 3.5.
All right.
They've also had some bad luck. Like, they have had some like rough luck with some officiating things. Like, that, yeah, I think that game will end up being closer than what the Bengals have been putting up the past few weeks.
All right, fair enough. All right, the bonus picks. J-Rob, you want to lead us off on that? Just keep the train rolling.
Yeah, this one felt like a layup, and I'm just going to double down on the Titans covering -2 against the Texans. I feel like it's not an easy game, but division game, less than 3 points for Mike Vrabel, I will take that every time. So, yeah, I love the Titans against the Texans. The Texans have looked pretty freaking bad, and I don't think the Texans have really any incentive to want to win games. Not that they're tanking, but the Titans are head of the division, and I think they want to keep it there, and this is an easy way for them to bolster their division total. So, yeah, I like the Titans -2.
So you're on the Malik Willis bandwagon?
Better than what the Texans got.
Fair enough there. But yeah, Tannehill's been actually a surprisingly good quarterback this year, according to at John Kingston's metrics. So I think it could be.
It's the Cube ranking, by the way.
Yeah,
Cube is
okay.
is the name of the statistic for the record.
Official. Cube R is what we're going with. So I do think that'll be a decent loss for them. Another home dog that we're going against. So that's a little dangerous there. But just
It's
had to
the
throw out
Texans.
had to throw out that Tannehill may or may not be the quarterback. I think that's the reason for your quote unquote layup with the -2. With that, I'll go ahead and take my layup with the Las Vegas Raiders at the Saints -1.5. Don't believe in Andy Dalton now that he's been named the starting quarterback for the Saints over Jameis Winston. They still are just so decimated from injury. Likely not going to have Thomas. Very likely not going to have Landry. Pete's out. Lattimore might be back. They're just dealing with too much, and the Raiders have lost some close games. They've been competitive. I think that they can cover 1.5 points. It's not going to be that daunting even in the Superdome.
You're not believing in Andy Dalton. He threw 5 touchdowns last week.
He threw
Okay.
6 touchdowns, 2 to the other team, and 4 for his own team.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot one. Uh, all right. Yeah, I mean, I would be betting against Andy Dalton too. I think the Raiders are solid, and 1.5 is close enough. Kind of like the Titans Texans situation, where like the Titans are good enough that
Hmm.
if it's less than a field goal, it's like, all right, well,
Might as
why
well.
not,
Take my
right?
chances. Yeah.
All right.
It's those
So
big spreads you have to watch out for the heavy favorites, right? Like the Packers and the Bucks and
the
those types of games.
Cowboys.
The Bills on Sunday night, yeah. Then you have
Broncos.
yeah.
All right. So my bonus pick, as always, if they are not in prime time, I'm picking the Bears game. The Bears are at the Cowboys. Cowboys are 9.5 point favorites. Um, I don't think this is like too far off of what I would have pegged it to be. Cowboys second week that Dak's back, he's probably going to be in more of a rhythm. They are without Zeke, but maybe that's better for them. Um,
If they're without
that
Zeke's contract, they'd be much happier.
yeah. Really what this comes down to, I think, is are you buying really the Bears as a like just functional team that can hang within 10 points of anybody, or is what we saw on Monday night like a total outlier, and is Micah Parsons just going to destroy Justin Fields? Um, I'm probably somewhere in the middle on that. But I have, I think I've lost every week. No, that's not true. I did have a push one of the weeks that I picked against the Bears. I've lost it. So every other game I picked against them, which has been a lot, actually, I've lost. So I'm going to take the 9.5 points. I am buying that the Bears are starting to understand what they need to do to win. I think this was that Monday night game against the Patriots was a big step forward for the team from a confidence standpoint. The Cowboys, even with Dak back, I just don't. I don't know.
They were
Maybe
down
it's
3-6 at half to the Detroit Lions.
yeah, and like maybe I'm just thinking too much of what we saw from them last year, because we've seen so little of Dak this year. It's hard to really paint a picture of where they're at with that offense with him. But I'm just not really scared by them, and I think the Bears coaching staff is smart enough to not let Micah Parsons absolutely wreck the game. Is he going to make a couple splash plays? Absolutely. But I think they will do their best to stay away from him as much as possible. If this is a head coaching thing, I'm 1,000% taking Matt Eberflus over Mike McCarthy. So I do still think the Cowboys likely win this game at home, especially Bears are on a short week. But it's probably going to be like a 6 point win or something is kind of where my head's at. So I'm going to take the points with the Bears and ride the wave. So to
Uh,
recap, oh no,
Go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead. I was just gonna say I'm with you after what they were able to do for the Patriots, and I'm glad we changed up the format so that we didn't have to talk about that game specifically for an extended period of time. But they're starting to understand, where the holes will be in the defense. I think Bill played some zone against them that was a little bit surprising, and Justin was able to hit those passes 20 yards downfield which he's been trying to do this whole time, but now they're starting to understand those pockets, those openings, where it will be, and they've got the threat of Justin taking off at any given moment, even when he's shadowed by a linebacker. He's just too damn quick. So I think that they found a little bit of a scheme. Micah Parsons could stay with him. Don't get me wrong there, but you're not going to give up Micah Parsons and just have him floating in the middle of the field for the chance that he's going to be able to catch up with Justin Fields. So you scheme away from him, and they did that very well last week. And with the offensive struggles that the Cowboys had, Dak didn't look great in my opinion. Maybe the completion percentage says differently, but I mean, if he couldn't even get a completion to Michael Gallup, his number two wide receiver, I think that they're gonna have some rough roads ahead. And luckily, they're in the NFC East and they're playing the Bears, so they can probably get a couple victories under their belt while they're still doing that. But I
Yeah.
don't think that they're gonna be putting up tremendous numbers for the next couple weeks.
No, I agree. I mean, they're just they're such a shell, I think, of themselves from a couple years ago where they just had this dominant offensive line and all these weapons on the outside, and Zeke was just a workhorse. Like they they have to work a lot harder to score points than they have, and I think they're still adjusting to that mindset. I do think when Dak is on, he is a very good quarterback, but we haven't seen him truly be on for a little while now. And I don't know, man. I just think like they're not as their defense is incredible. Like, don't get me wrong, their defense is absolutely incredible. But like you look at them holistically as a team, and I mean, they're not even close to the fucking Eagles. And, the Giants are, I think, outperforming their record, but they're probably closer to them at this point. Um, Unfortunately, like you said, they're probably going to get a couple more easy wins out of that division by having to play the Commanders, having to play the Giants. They probably get a win this week, and we're talking our Jera is talking himself into another year of Mike McCarthy here. So we'll see what happens, but I do still think the Cowboys win. But yeah, definitely 9.5 points feels like a lot. So to recap, Toaster and I are on the Ravens Thursday night. We are also on the Bills. J Rob is opposite of us on those games. Sorry, Monday night as well. So J Rob, you are just like bucking
Just going
the
full
whole pod
contrarian.
right
Yeah.
now. Okay.
Doing it for the squad.
Doing it for the squad. Appreciate that. I am on the Bears plus 9.5. J Rob is on the Titans, sorry, minus
Thank you.
two. And Toaster is on the Raiders minus 1.5. So this is for sure the week that we get back on track, which means J Rob's going to go over because he faded all of our picks. So the only way that the pod gets over 500, I think, is if, J Rob goes over. At least not your bonus pick. All right, you
Yeah,
can keep your
with
bonus
bonus.
pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that will do it for this episode. Any parting thoughts? Anything that we wanted to talk about? Maybe didn't get a
Nothing,
chance to.
nothing that we want to talk about necessarily, but I do want to throw out a couple of crazy spreads right now. So Dolphins are only minus 3.5 to the Detroit Lions. So apparently Vegas thinks that Tua's actually going to throw some interceptions this
He
game.
sucks
Maybe
again.
the Detroit Lions will catch it. The Patriots are favored by 2.5 against the Jets, the 5-2 Jets.
Frauds. Jets are
Then
frauds.
Yeah.
the Giants are still underdogs to the Seahawks, and they're just going to keep living that underdog style. 3-point underdogs to the Seahawks. I love football. The lines mean nothing. The spreads mean nothing. It's just go out there on Sunday, and Vegas is just like, let's make our money by keeping this as close as possible, 50-50. But those are some very interesting lines to me based on recent developments.
For sure. I mean, I'm definitely shocked by the Patriots one. Only because the Jets have been playing well, despite the fact that their quarterback has been dog
Awful.
shit.
Yeah.
I
It
don't
must
know
be the
how that
Brees
continues.
Hall.
Yeah,
injury.
Brees Hall's done now.
They
They
did
did
get
trade
James
for James
Robinson. Yeah.
Robinson, so we'll
Yep.
see what happens there. But like, they just seem primed to fall on their face because they start to play teams that are, scored 2 touchdowns, and that offense is like, oh fuck, like what do we do?
They,
Um,
they go Patriots, Bills, Patriots, so they'll figure themselves out real fast if they're able to beat the Patriots.
no kidding. I would expect, I wouldn't put the odds at 0 that Joe Flacco makes an appearance for that third game, that second Patriots game, depending on
It's
how this keeps
it's
going for Zach Wilson.
comes after a bye, so they get an extra week to prepare.
There you go. All right. No, definitely good call out on some of those spreads. That's a little wild. Also, if I would have said to you that the Rams would be an underdog this early in the season at home against a division rival, like you would have told me I was crazy. But I mean, I don't think that's too far fetched that the Niners are 1.5 point favorites right now.
Well, I mean, the Seahawks are leading the division. The Falcons are tied for the division lead. Like this,
Yeah,
it's a fun year. It's a fun year. How are the
it
Broncos
really
doing?
is.
Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even. I can't even speak. I can't even like formulate sentences to explain how bad they've been. It's just they're forgettable. They're irrelevant.
They would be forgettable.
quarterback-
They're
if
not
they
forgettable.
if they
They
were
are.
on Twitter 24/7 because
Sorry, their
Russ
offense is forgettable.
They're
Talk about the biggest shit show that to sum up the entire Broncos season. Did you guys see their uniforms they're doing for the London game? They're
Oh,
wearing
no.
their away tops, white tops with orange bottoms, or with blue bottoms. But the weird part is the white jerseys have blue stripes on the sides, and the blue pants have orange stripes on the sides. So you're gonna have this long stripe that's just gonna be cut in half in the middle with 2 different colors. It looks awful.
hold
designed
on.
by Ciara.
Let
Just
me
put this team down, dude. Like,
Just put this team down.
send them to the glue
turn this
factory.
horse into glue. Like, what is going on? Oh, and they're already talking about maybe trading Bradley Chubb. So, like, are they already having buyer's remorse? Because if they have to trade Chubb, they're clearly seeing their situation being like, we need to get draft picks because what we have is not getting it done.
I mean, there's rumors that they're shopping Judy. Like,
Yeah.
it's not good. Oh
Not
my
good.
God, I just saw photos of
Yeah.
what they're wearing.
Yeah, white top,
Holy
blue
shit.
bottoms.
Wait, yeah, what the fuck?
And the stripes are 2 different colors on the sides. Yeah. It's gonna
That-
and that's your product you're putting out to London, help spread the game.
Oh God.
Might as well put on a clown costume for Halloween and honk some noses while you're there too. Holy shit.
That's pretty damn bad. Pretty damn bad for sure.
But hey, Russ
no,
got his
I'm
knee highs, his high knees in on the plane there, so
yeah. So
Broncos
they're
by
gonna be
20.
They're gonna be great.
It's
I mean,
prob-
they might score 12 points, right?
Did Russ forget his jersey back home? Is that why they had to do this? And they're like, this
I'm
is all you have. You
convinced.
brought the wrong pants, Russ.
dude, I'm convinced it was like an equipment issue, and they're like, check out this new thing we're doing. Check out this remix to the jersey we're doing, and people are like, what?
Oh, that is
Not
rough.
good. Not good.
Last thing from me is RIP in peace, Matt Ryan. It's been a great adventure. I don't think he's gonna make it into Canton, but he had a good stretch of 5 years there where he was one of the elites in the league. So
That MVP
it's-
season was awesome.
yeah,
Like he,
Does he call it before the end of the year?
there's no reason to.
Just get paid.
yeah.
All good.
Yeah. But yeah, it was Russ Wilson that actually took him out, right? His MVP year, kicked him out of the playoffs. I'm pretty sure they lost to the Seahawks that year.
I thought his
But-
Really?
MVP year was the Patriots year.
Yeah, I thought that was
Was
the 28-3
Oh,
year,
you're
wasn't
right.
it?
You're right. But yeah, so props to him. He's handling it like a champ, and that's what I hope the other quarterbacks start to take on here is the fact that he's still there for his team despite everything that's happened to him. And Sam Ellinger, little gunslinger, I think that this might be a little Colts revival right now.
No better way to do it than against the Commanders.
I'm not buying it. I don't know. Just side note, could you imagine the shit show if Aaron Rodgers got benched like this?
Ugh.
I mean, he would burn that fucking town to the ground. I mean, it's like 3 buildings, but like he would burn it to the ground.
I mean,
if
he's
you could
already
start
dressing up
fire
like a
there.
villain, so.
Yeah.
True. All right.
All right.
So that'll do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for listening. Again, let us know if you are going to tail or fade our picks. Fade at your own risk, though, unless you're going to fade J-Rob, because that's the right approach. But
I'm gonna laugh when I go 4-0.
yeah, that'll be pretty good. All right, we do still need to get out on a nice little call from J-Rob here. So,
All right. So since it's in London, I'm gonna do an awful British accent.
Oh, God, this is
British
Are you,
accent.
are you jet
Broncos country. Let's ride.
that was
You
pretty
sound
good,
like you're
actually.
from London.
lagged? Yeah.
That was pretty good.
And then the fact Nathaniel Hackett can stay in London. That'll be the best